So my name is Cameron Lisama. I'm 28 years old, and I've spent the last 8.5 of those years working on this book. And now it's real. It's here. And that's so fucking cool. This is my very first book, my very first novel, with many more planned. It's also my first YouTube video, so bear with me a little bit. I'm a little emotional. A lot of real world years and tears and hardship went into the creation of this book. Maybe one day I'll tell you about that part, but for now, this is Sons of Scrapyard. Part 1 is very deep and emotional character drama, all wrapped up in a gritty science fantasy action adventure novel. It follows very real, damaged, personal human characters in a world where they gotta fight scary robots and giant bugs and monsters and each other. So this shit rules, is what I'm trying to say. This is a story I've always wanted to exist and I could never find anywhere. So I made it. Made it myself. So the microphone that I bought to make this YouTube video is somehow worse than that of my iPhone. So this doesn't actually work, but I'm gonna hold it because it makes me more comfortable. So this video is gonna be less about what the story actually is and more on why I wrote this story, why I chose this world and why I chose these characters. And most any video after this one is gonna be more going in depth on the monsters and the robots and the concepts and the places and all the cool shit that's actually in the series. But I feel like none of that matters without knowing what kind of person and writer I am and knowing what I actually give a shit about. But if you don't give a shit about any of that, look at this real quick before you leave. This is concept art I got made for the book. This is on the cover. Ta-da! This is the chapter 1 piece for Sons of Scrapyard. I got 3 pieces here. These are the vibes I'm going for. This is chapter 2. Monsters. Little cave. Little shit going on. I don't know how well you can see that in the camera. But all of these were painted digitally. My boy Nolan Lu. Nolan 192. I'll have him linked in the description. But this is chapter 3 art as well. You can buy prints of these on my website as well as the book, sonsofscrapyard.com. Yeah. If that all look like shit, then you won't fuck with the story anyway. So get out of here. But if this all looks beautiful to you as it does to me, you'll dig this, man. You'll dig it all. So I wrote this book because it's so rare for me to find stories where I love the whole story. I'll love a piece of it, I'll love a character or a scene or a concept, but it's never executed how I would prefer. You know what I mean? I'm very picky with the stories that I love. I always have been, but especially after studying them for so long. So many stories are so disappointing to me. They never go far enough. They never go deep enough or creative enough to really push what we're seeing, you know what I mean? What we're reading, what we're experiencing. And there's plenty that do, but I found that every story that I love has these 3 core qualities. These are 3 core qualities that define a great story to me and my preferences. For me to truly love a story, it has to have all 3 of these things throughout. It needs to be gritty, it needs to be emotional, it needs to be creative. So gritty to me means I want the action to be awesome and I want the violence to be scary. I want to see some cool, crazy shit, and I want that same shit to damage the world or the characters physically or emotionally. That doesn't necessarily mean dark. It just means the story takes itself seriously and is consistent with its vibe, its characters, and the consequences. Whatever rules and problems the story sets up for itself, it sticks to them. No takesies, backsies, no easy answers. And a story doesn't have to be violent and scary to be gritty. I consider like Toy Story to be very gritty. It mostly means that the stakes are real and the characters have fears and worries because those fears and worries are real. You know what I'm saying? Emotional. Emotional just means honest, mostly. I don't want the characters to do and react however is most convenient for the story. I want the story to only be possible because of the characters' honest reactions. Something happens to the characters, now they have to make a choice because of that something. And now whatever their choice they make is now what is happening. You know what I mean? Creative just means creative. It means whatever shit you're pushing, shit meaning ideas, push that shit to its limits. Whatever the coolest or craziest or scariest thing that this character or creature could do or the situation could be, and still make sense. Still make sense is the key. Do that shit every time, every scene, and play out the honest consequences accordingly. So essentially what makes a great story to me is I want to see some cool, crazy shit. That cool, crazy shit all mattered to the story and world and characters. And the writer cared enough about those stories and worlds and characters that I got to feel something real by the end. Be that fear or joy or sorrow or whatever. So my promise to you as an author and as a storyteller is that this book and this series and any other I publish will always have these three qualities. It means any story I put out will always have something meaningful to say and something new to show you. And that's all I've ever wanted from writers and storytellers. So there you go. So I initially started this book just to build a cool ass world and fill it with monsters and robots. This is before I realized it was going to grow into my like soul, hope, and dream. I grew up watching a lot of Samurai Jack and playing Spore every single day. I fucking love Spore. I don't know how familiar you are with that old ass janky ass game, but it's just a beautifully simple little alien creation game where you put together little monsters and creatures and see how they all interact with each other. There is not a single creature in this series that I did not first make in Spore. Some going way back to like 7th grade. Whenever I need to come up with a new monster, I boot up Steam and I sketch it out there first every single time. For this series, it's mostly a bunch of big ass bugs. The ecology is very spider and worm and roly-poly based. Just cause that's all fun for me. I'm trying to make them out of clay recently. This one's not painted yet, but I think it'd be fun to sketch them out. One day I'll learn how to 3D model stuff. That's what I'm trying to get my wife into. Yeah, there's a few guys here that I have going. This one's all cracked because I keep dropping him. But yeah, I just wanted to make a bunch of fucking monsters, man. So I started building a world to fill with monsters, but I needed a story to actually like run around and explore that world. And I figured the best and most fun way for me to do that would be to design the world and story and characters around my love of action. I fucking love creative, visceral, impactful action sequences and set pieces. And I designed the world and story for me to be able to write any kind of non-magical fight scene that I can possibly think of. I want to fight robots. I want to fight monsters. I want to see some Planet of the Apes shit, and warrior cults and alien concepts. And I don't want any easy ways of dealing with any of them. So in this world, there are no guns and there's no magic. Just people fighting monsters with shit like this, actually. Let's see. With shit like this. Just scrap steel and robot parts. I want to see my characters in the fucking mix. You know what I mean? Just some clubs and hammers and sword clubs. It's just more fun, man. It's more fun getting in there and just seeing a dude take down a robot with a hammer is so much scarier than anything else. If he just had a superpower to blast it apart. So this is not a traditional fantasy by any means. If you want crazy in-depth magic systems and eldritch gods and high concept fantasy shit, you're gonna have to wait till for my future fantasy series based on my like Dungeons and Dragons world. But this series is very much a sci-fi world that reads and feels like a fantasy story. I wanted to tell a very personal, grounded story with these characters, dealing with a lot of issues that I've had in real life. And I feel like magical characters should have magical problems. You know what I mean? So if I want them to have regular problems, they gotta have regular shit going on. Regular meaning robots and aliens. But so this is very much a sci-fi world. Samurai Jack probably had the most impact on me, the greatest impact on me in my childhood and my like definition of what is really cool. You know what I mean? Not necessarily the writing, but the aesthetic and the directing. Definitely. Just a dude fighting robots and monsters with a sword in cool places, in creative ways. It's getting fucking hot in here. Oh god, sorry. So as much as action and monsters and concepts will always be incredible, a story can only really be as great as its characters, which is where the emotional comes in. The story follows two very flawed characters on different emotional journeys. They're the two sons of this world's greatest hero, dealing with the robots and the threats and all kinds of shit in very different ways for very different reasons. I don't have a lot of characters I can compare them like directly to, but they're very much like Aang and Zuko, or like Dick Grayson and Jason Todd, or like even maybe Obi-Wan and Anakin a little bit, in just the sense of like naive optimist, avoiding responsibility in some way, versus like bitter, talented pessimist, just kind of angry at the world for whether justified or not. Essentially two different branches of worldview and philosophy that I have gone through in my own life, for better or worse. So the better you get to know them, the better you get to know two very flawed versions of myself that I had to grow up from and grow out of. The story of these characters is very emotionally resonant and personal for me. Not in a literal one-to-one way. Their journeys are completely different. Their circumstances and all that are entirely different, but they're basically two different emotional extremes that I could have gone down, and I honestly ended up somewhere in between in real life, for better or worse. So basically, I wrote this story to make some cool shit. I want to watch it fight, and I wanted to deal with my very deep, dark, personal family trauma. And you can read all about it in Sons of Scrapyard Part 1. Find out now at sonsofscrapyard.com. Linked in the description. Yeah. That's basically it, man. The book is out. Anywhere you probably buy books, it's out. There's 3 different versions of it right now. If you buy it from my website, that would be the most helpful for me. I'll make the most money. But you can find it at Barnes & Noble, you can find it on Amazon, you can find it wherever you get your books. There's 3 different versions of this book. There's the prettier version, the pocket edition, just like the smallest, cheapest version. The pretty version has just prettier art in it, just a couple pieces. Nothing too crazy. I will eventually have a full art hardcover deluxe edition when I have far more art. It felt weird having only 3 pieces to put in here. You can get this version for $25, sonsofscrapyard.com or anywhere else. This version for $15 if you don't care about the art, you just want to read the story, you still want to hold it. But the cheapest, easiest way to to buy it is I have a PDF on my website for just $5. That's the cheapest way. You can read the whole story without trying to find it somewhere. But I just published it. I don't know where else it would be. You can also read the first 3 chapters for free on my website. You just have to find the little button somewhere on the bottom of the homepage. And yeah, buy these books. You can buy these beautiful prints. I sell these prints of all the art and updates in the gallery of the website as well, of all the different iterations of the art, down to like the sketches in the early days when they're still being concepted. You know what I mean? The prints are beautiful. I found beautiful German paper from a print store in London that ships them out pretty fast. They are a little expensive, but that's because they're so beautiful. They're so beautiful. Yeah. Thank you so much. If you made it this far, this will be my first video for my first book with many more to come. Yeah, it was nice to meet you, and I'll catch you later. Thank you so much.